Everybody, we'll get started in just about 2 minutes. I'll respect everyone's time, and um, I will mute everyone when we get started. Okay? I know people like to chat a little bit, but once we get started, I'll mute everybody, and towards the end I will open it up. But you can always, for some ground rules, you can always type in the chat box. If you have questions, I'll definitely address questions. And I really think we have a good program tonight. I think so. Just sit back for wherever you are. You're going to learn about estate planning and the laws, what's going on. This is our second presentation, but I really thank everybody for coming. I know we've got people from all over. And so I will go ahead and mute everybody, and we'll get started in about a minute or two. And this is our second program, so it's going to be about an hour and a half, give or take, questions and the like. And so, and I already got my first question, so will it be taped? Yes, we're recording these, and so the best one, Rebecca, is going to go. So I got to see how good I do on this one. The first one was pretty good, so we'll see if I can top it on this one. But I will go ahead and mute everybody, and we'll get started in about a minute. I got comment on my haircut. Thank you. Very funny. All right. And if anybody cannot hear me once we get going, just let me know. Again, just type it in the chat. These pop up for me, so I'll be able to hear it. All right, let's do this. Let's get started. So I am Bobby Fazy. I just noticed my lighting isn't that great, but I think it'll work. And this is the 13th annual client meeting for InSight Law, and I'm really excited to get this started for today. And so paperwork management, handouts, why we're doing this. So there is a PowerPoint that was sent to you. I will be working off of the PowerPoint today. So you'll see that. There's some handouts that I gave. I will go through the handouts today. A lot of it deals with the new legislation. Some of them are process handouts. And then I just want to make sure we talk about the client/family organizer. We've got some new things on the way for that. So that's what we have, and you should have the PowerPoint and handouts digitally. And so the purpose of this meeting, really, there's a couple main purposes. I wrote Congress keeps us busy up top with the underline, because if you have been, either if you have or have not been, we'll get you up to speed. A lot of legislation actually occurred towards the end of last year, and they were signed into law. And now there's going to be some new legislation that's already in the works right now. So something you should be aware of, which we'll get to. The legal updates will be towards the middle of the program. I want to talk about disability process issues, just to make sure we're seeing developments from a practical side in this area, as far as how do things kind of work logistically. I'm not going to nail into the details today. I'm just going to show you some process changes that we have. And then digital assets, which you need to know about that. We're just living in a different world where, you got a lot of online accounts and usernames and passwords. Not that I want any of those, but what to do with those accounts when you pass away, and how do we handle those assets. So I'm very excited about that. And so the main things here, just to remember, there's some key tools that we use. If you are comfortable with these two tools, We are miles ahead of most estate planning firms if you just do that. Your asset review report, which everyone we get, if you have been on our process for more than a year or have just started, the renewal process starts in December, where we'll send you an asset review report of our latest list of your assets. And then you give that information back to us, update if you sold something, bought something, you gave us new values. And that asset report is really critical, right? And so if something happens to you, we're not playing Sherlock Holmes to go find everything. We're able to find the assets seamlessly. Estate planning review worksheet is your executive summary of your plan that lays out your instructions. Okay, and so just to remember, just going to show you how they look like as a quick review. The asset review report, if you've gets uploaded to your portal in the most cases, and it just lists your accounts broken down, and a check mark is what we're looking for, or some type of mark by there where we know we verified the asset, what we're doing with the asset, that it's titled properly. And so with our renewal packages, if you had funding action items that our funding coordinator, Jenny Oliver might have put as part of that, please respond and help her and help us help you. Our goal is to get to 100% funding, or have a plan for 100% of the assets for all of you. And so that's really important. The other report that we use is the estate planning review worksheet. It's an executive summary of your plan. And so it's the easiest way for you to make updates to your plan by showing or doing that, by just making updates to this estate planning review worksheet. A lot of people don't want to read. I mean, my engineers like to read the whole book, but most people don't like to read the whole thing, and they want to make sure they just hit the main items. And so if I have your asset report and your executive summary, we're way ahead. And so what my point of it is, any chance I can get you to, repetition is the key to retention. If we have the main things that make a plan work, are from the estate planning side, is updated instructions, your personal instructions, and also updates in the law, which I'm sure we're going to have to react to updates in the law that are going to be coming. Your asset report, which means where we know where the assets are at. And then, when to seek additional counseling. This is a gray area, but we're trying to, really get sharpen that, and we'll get better. It's really when, there are issues, maybe a health issue is a common one. And maybe there's a diagnosis, a major diagnosis. The earlier that we're notified, at least from the legal side, we can provide more options. If we're coming in late in the game, that limits your options. Okay. And then plan personalization deals with those checklists that we had you do when you initially done the plan, and there you can update those at any time. And those checklists deal with healthcare checklists, final arrangements, your special stuff lists. These are things, especially with the healthcare checklist. I think a good conversation goes further than any kind of legal document where you can prepare. Obviously, having the legal documents as tight as we can, plus the good conversation about your wishes, go a long way. Trust protector support is just a way to amend the plan if they change the laws after you become disabled or after you pass away. So we can put in additional legal tax provisions or creditor protection provisions in the plan for the most part. Okay, that's just a quick summary of the keys that you need to know. So the law firm update, tell you what's going on with the firm. Again, I'm Bobby Fazy, president of InSight Law. I'm the lead attorney, focused on just estate and business planning. Wendy Masomer is our associate attorney. She's also our settlement coordinator. She drafts the lion's share of the legal documents. And also Joel Keith is our tax attorney. He handles some of the advanced issues or business planning issues. Bill Dunker is our contracts attorney. He's got a lot of experience reviewing contracts and the like. Ed Clay is my backup attorney. If I get hit by the bus, he's agreed to take over my clients, and I've agreed to take over his until we've developed an internal succession plan with associates in our firm. Ginny Oliver is our funding coordinator. She's the one who helps put all the assets into your trust. So it just doesn't magically happen. And so she's reviewed everyone's reports, and our team has. And so help us help you get to the funding. And I'm hoping we get a nice push for the funding after our program, our initial programs this year. Michelle Tice, you may have seen the emails from her. She's our client services coordinator. She coordinates my calendar. She does a great job with all of that. That's not easy to do. And so she's got everyone here. We got everyone organized. Daniel Blankenship is an administrative support team member. And we're going to be hiring another support team member. And so we are growing. And then we've got Nava here, who is complying with all of the social distancing requirements that are out there. And so she's done a great job with that. And she keeps growing like a weed. She knows everything already. She's going to turn 5 in March. And so then we've got our current resource partners. So it's not only our internal team, but we find that sometimes there are questions, and the most challenging area is if someone does have a long-term care issue, or maybe has a cognitive issue. And so if there's questions about how to deal with the healthcare process, or where a loved one should be, what kind of care. We're not experts in that field, but we're aligning ourselves, and we keep interviewing different companies and firms out there that do these. Okay. And so it's important that you tell us what the issues are, and we're trying to get you to the right people, or find the right people for you. And so we'll do those interviews, and I'll show you, we do those interviews, and we'll post them to our website. So if it get to a point where maybe a family member does need to go into an assisted living facility, well, what questions should be asking? What questions should you be asking when you're looking for assisted living facility? What are the rates? Things that you may not have. You're not an expert in that area, so we get people who are experts to help kind of do that initial side of the due diligence for you. So I think that's really important, and we're continuing to grow in that area. So I think our competitive advantage really is we're able to adjust with changes pretty seamlessly. Okay, so this is not something where we were blindsided last year. This was a horrible thing that happened with regard to the pandemic, but we had already been doing routine updates with our clients, and just the fact that we can't see each other in person shouldn't stop us. And that's really one of our missions is, hey, the laws are continuing to change. Our clients' plans need to be updated. We need to keep everything in good order. So it's not like we're just going to close our eyes. We're meeting the challenge. And I think we're way ahead of the game, because I don't know where the laws are going. Well, I do know where they're going to end up, but they can change. Different legislation could get passed and could affect your plan. And so once they come up with those, maybe things like that could affect IRAs, or affect the estate tax, then we'll let you know, and we course correct. So it's not something where they change a law, you have no recourse to get your plan updated. If it's a major change that will be a significant impact, like immediately, we'll do a special meeting on that. But right now, normal process is, and we'll show you how the normal process goes. This slide is really here to show you that I think most attorneys get themselves in trouble where they don't have open lines of communication with their clients. I want to make sure that we're trying to go overboard on communication. I want to make sure that we're clear on issues, and how you can reach us, and what we'll do, and the scope of what we do for you. So typically we'll do phone appointments at no additional charge. These are for simple issues, something that doesn't take a deep dive, and something usually 10 to 15 minutes we can handle with regard to the phone appointment. Emails on issues, those are no additional charges as well. Again, just basic questions and issues being answered. Our website, I'll show you our website, and we've done developments to that. there's a lot of information on our website. Our portal, I think, is another competitive advantage because of the fact that we can't see each other as much anymore. This is a great way to be able to update plans, get the paperwork to you as efficiently as possible, get it back from you. And again, those obstacles are not going to stop us on that side. The annual client meeting, that's tonight. So whatever you're learning tonight, that's another way that we can communicate as well. The client update program meeting is a meeting that we do every 2 years with our clients. And that's where we actually update the legal documents. And you'll get, if it's your year to update this year, we'll send you an email in a few months, and you need to reserve your spot, and then we'll get you your estate planning review worksheet that if you want to update the personal side of things. The family education series, I'll show you what the education programs that we have for this year. So different topics, and I'm sure I'll probably throw in a couple extra ones once the laws are finalized. And then our newsletter, personal counseling reviews are there when we have a real issue that we need to think about and spend some time on. Those are additional fees to your membership program. It's just a $500 flat fee for those personal counseling reviews. And then family meetings, if it's not part of the initial family meeting that we have as part of the initial process now, if you just want to huddle everyone up, same $500 deal if we want to do that on a special basis. So those are the ways that we're here for you. I want to make sure that everyone understands that and is comfortable with that. So now I'm going to show you, our technology on the website and make sure that you're clear on how that works. So, and I want to make sure I'm sharing my screen right. Sometimes I don't share my screen properly. Okay. So this is our website, insightlaw.net, okay? And the place that you want to go, there's a lot of, if you want to look at different resources that the people I interview and the like, and different blogs and items I do, that's great, and that's general information. But our client advisory board said, Bobby, if something happened to one of us or something happened to us and we want our helpers, meaning the backup trustees or the family members, to be able to, they want to make it really easy for them to get the information that they need. So we put a little tab at the front. And so that's an easy way. You click that tab, that gets you into kind of and there's no username or password anymore. There's nothing client specific here. We want to make it easy for people to find that. This is where they would go. And if something, and this is a required training in 911 info for beneficiaries and trust helpers. Every year in the Saturday before Thanksgiving, I'll do a program talking about kind of the 911 information. We call it the nuts and bolts one. That if something happens to someone, this is what you need to know. That gets updated every year. We put that up on the website. That's just one of them. But the portal is something that you do need a username and password for, because that's where we want to send, that's where we want to put documents that we can upload documents and download documents. That is where there are client-specific items there in the portal. And so, this is something, if you don't know how to access your portal, then shoot Michelle Tice an email. She should have been on your email there. And if not, you can always shoot me an email. But this is, where we want in the future, where we want to be going with our clients is that, oops, I didn't have it right. Sorry. With our clients, we want to be able to have the right information there for the clients and have it accessible to people. So. Hold on. Okay, so let me put it on the right page for you. So you go to your username is your email, and then your password, you make your own password for that. And so if you forgot your password, you can always just say reset password. That's always fun, right? But what I want to show you is the documents tab. Okay. So the documents tab will show you things for the annual client meeting. Your annual renewals get uploaded to the portal as well. Your client update program, if it's your year to renew, once you confirm your spot, we'll put your estate planning review worksheet, we'll put it up to the portal, and you can make the change, you can download it, make changes as you like, upload it. We'll make the changes on our end, and so we can update your estate planning. So this is where I want to go. These aren't there right now. This is one of our projects that we want to have your documents digitally laid out, so that if you need it, you don't have to always call us, but we've got them there for you. Your red book has all of your estate planning legal documents. So we just want to basically make the red book, put it there for you, so it's accessible. And if something happens to you, if you want to give access to other family members, then you can do that, and we would permit that. The funding side of things, if there's funding issues and past renewals and updates. So to me, that's really been a great help for us, helped update the plans this year. I know a lot of other firms were kind of had a hiccup. We kept things moving along, so I'm very happy about that. If you ever wanted to update your like your checklists and wanted blank ones, there's blank checklists on the website that says access fillable client forms. So if you wanted to change your healthcare directives, or you wanted to change your, not the directives, but the checklist for it, or your final arrangements, you can just go ahead and get blank copies here. If you have minor kids and you want to change your instructions to the guardians and trustees, you can find those as well. There. All right. And then DocuBank, we're going to have a presentation by Mike Wall later on in the program tonight about DocuBank. That's the company that we work with to have your directives basically in your wallet at all times. You get a little credit card from DocuBank once we've gotten your directives all in place. And again, if you don't have it, Mike's going to show you how you can do all of that. But if you get into an accident or you go to the hospital and you don't have your physical directives with you, if you got that card, that's your medical directives, and he'll kind of walk you through that tonight. And then our video library, like I said, just different topics that it's great. The client base, most of the topics come from the client base. And I said, that's a great question. Why don't I post that? And so just, a lot of things there. Some of them are just about InSight law, tutorials on trust, and I try to make them very short. And so you can see those as well. And those are the main items that I wanted to cover on the website side of things for tonight. Okay, so let's go back into the presentation. But that's important that you see that. Use the portal. It's really helped out. It's increased. We're increasing our investment in the portal, and it's really helped as far as saving paper, saving trees, increase efficiency with the firm. On the IT security side for the portal, I did a presentation last year on it. You can go to this. We use Amazon infrastructure. If you have further questions on it, you can email Michelle. There's about a 5 or 6 page handout that our IT people had provided with regard to the security on the encryption and the like on that. Okay, went through the website as far as what's out there. You can also register for client events there. The firm, as far as referrals, I really have to thank the client base this past year. It was a tough year, I'm sure, for everybody, but it's really nice to know that when times are down, that we had people actually, referring us in these difficult times, and kept the little guys going. And so that's great. And we really appreciate that. It makes it a lot easier for us, rather than we couldn't go out and see people that we normally do and try to market as much. And it really took a lot of pressure off the firm on that end. So we really thank you for that. The client update program is the program that happens every other year, where you actually update your legal documents, the red binders, the red books there. And so this is something that's part of the firm's process. It's part of your membership fee. It's really the best way to update your plan. And so just to remind you, so if it's going to be your year to update, you'll know. We're going to send you an email saying it's your year to update. Please register for a client event, and we'll give you different times to do that. And you don't have, we're getting better now with regard to signing the document. So it was, we had some question marks on, okay, we're giving them the updates and we're giving the information to everybody, but how are we going to execute? And so it's really on a case by case basis, just depending on where you're at, what needs to be updated. So what we're able to do is we're able to do some in person, socially distanced. We've done some curbside, and we do digital. So we're digital notaries too. So we can notarize just like we're talking now. So it just really depends on your specific situation and comfort level. And so we do that on a case by case basis once you sign up for the event. But that's a great way to update the plan, and just make sure that when you get your estate planning review worksheet, that you review everything. Even if there's no changes, sign it, because that documents your intent. And if you have if you're in a married couple situation, both spouses need to sign their sheets, because it documents your intent if something happens before we get your plan updated. Like I said before, the personal counseling review is where, hey, there's something else has happened. Maybe a family member is now disabled, and we really have to put our thinking caps on and really focus. Those are when those events occur. Okay, just word processing amendments, simple basic items that are out there, changing names, addresses. That's part of the deal. It's when we have to do those deeper dives, put our thinking caps on issues, that we have to do that personal counseling session, and we'll know, and you'll know ahead of time. Excuse me. Um, okay. Um, Special delivery. So special delivery is really kind of a new concept with us, but it's real. Okay, and it's dealing with how to update plans when people can't either physically make it into the office. There's maybe a physical disability, or they can't physically sign documents anywhere, or there's some cognitive issue. Okay, so now you're not on the normal update. We got to make special arrangements to make sure that you get your documents updated properly, and that you're able to sign them. And so what we do here, and what we're doing here on this side, is as follows. So the big arrow is what I'll show you first. And so if there is an issue, right, of disability, and you notify the law firm. So let us know, what the issue is, and then we do a teleconference to see, how advanced is the issue, how much of an impact will it have on their plan? Are they able to do the normal updates? And so we'll find out in that kind of those meetings. And then if there is a situation where, hey, you're not able to manage your financial affairs, and if you remember, what we do on the disability side to determine if you can manage your financial affairs, we convene what's called a disability panel. Okay, and the disability panel is not making healthcare decisions for you. These are the people that if we were sitting around a table, that you would trust to answer one question. Do you have the ability to effectively manage your financial affairs? All right. And so, that's a it's a big deal. And, a lot of our clients say, Bobby, I want to be the one making that decision. Unfortunately, you're disabled at that point. So the next best thing I can do for you is give you control on how you give up control by having this handpicked panel. So rather than having just doctors, which we definitely need a doctor on that panel, and we've gone through those counseling, we also have family members or friends as part of that. So it's not just a cold clinical decision, it's a decision done by the team. And so if that does occur, then we've got to take your name off of assets and put other people's name on. It just makes sense, right? So you shouldn't be writing checks to people when you're disabled in a mental situation. So that's the basic process. But then if you are someone who couldn't make it, you can't make it to the meetings anymore. So now we're just going to come up with a process, and this is on a case by case basis. What do we have to do for this family? Okay. And so mailings, is it going to be now, we're not doing hard copy mailings as much anymore, but do we want to send email invitations to maybe, let's say it's a child helper who is helping, obviously the child is older now, but they're able to help be the backup trustee or healthcare agent, or able to help attend the meetings. Do you want us to copy them on correspondence so they're in the loop? And so we'll ask you those questions. We'll go through, hey, when's the next meeting that you have? Is it a client update program meeting, or is it an annual client meeting? If your next meeting scheduled is a client update program meeting, we got to sign documents. So we got to figure out who's going to be attending, and are we going to be doing this through the web or digital signing, or through the mail or in person? So we just got to figure out those logistics, and it takes time, and we want to do it right. And then, we want to make sure, is it just something where the client can't physically make it, or is there a competence issue that we have to worry about? And, do you want the firm to check in with you every so often to make sure things are okay on your side? Proactive elder law, that's more than we're going to go into tonight. That's where if you have a long-term care issue and you're worried that all your money is going to go towards care issues, and you don't have basically, if you want to try to proactively plan to try to get potentially Medicaid benefits or government benefits. So quick kind of overview. If you have a long-term care illness, that's something like where if you have a dementia, or you're not able to bathe yourself, you have home care, you need to go into a nursing home. And, every geographic area is different, but I think we can agree that those expenses for long-term care can really skyrocket wherever you are. It could be a couple $1,000s a month. It could be 20,000 plus a month, depending on the level of care. And I said a month, and that blows through a lot of people's savings, right? And so this proactive elder law is like, it's something where there's a lot of crisis planning going on there, where people are trying to get qualified for government benefits or Medicaid by just having fire sales. What we're trying to do is be proactive. So if there's an initial diagnosis, maybe we have some time to do some planning. And so once you know that, then we would say, okay, you need to go on this track. This is not the normal track. You have a special program that we need to make sure. And you evaluate that at that time. And those are the main things that we would go through. And so all I'm saying is, on the disability side, just be aware that the process is different, and we're going to have to make adjustments to that. And so anything that, if there would be additional fees associated with it, you would know in advance before we did anything, as far as here's what we recommend. And so if you need to, if we need to do some special hand holding on this, we'll go through those issues. But my main concern is, I don't want anybody who can't make it to an update, regardless how we do it, to get lost in the shuffle. So we have a specific plan to do that, and it has to work for the law firm too. If we're going overboard, or we're spending a lot of time on something where it's not it's going off our process, well, let's set the expectation on both sides ahead of time. Okay, so let's keep continuing. All right, now the legal update. That's all the process stuff. So let's talk about the laws. If you zoned out for that. So I want to talk about what you need to know about current and proposed legislation. And this is really focusing on my realm. So everyone, I'm not going to be talking about in-depth corporate taxes or partnership. I'm going to talk about how things affect in general for our clients on the estate planning side, and things that seem to have been key issues for our clients over the past year. And then we'll also talk about digital assets as well. So a little bit of background, if you're not aware, probably are aware of those issues, is, let's see if this light's better. Let me turn my light on. Okay. My light's not working right now. All right, so on the House side of things, Nancy Pelosi, and before, my disclaimer on this is, I'm not taking any sides on the politics side, okay? I'm just telling you the laws, all right? So here, the House Democrats reelected Nancy Pelosi to another term, Speaker of the House. Democrats held on to a majority in the November elections. 222 Democrats, 211 Republicans. 218 needed for control of the House. So that's the House. The Senate, if you've been following that at all, there's a razor thin majority in the Senate for the Democrats. Basically, it's 50-50. So Democrats won control of the U.S. Senate after a net gain of 3 seats in the 2020 elections. If you were following the runoffs in Georgia, that didn't even get completed till January 5th, right? But basically what happened is there's 50 Democrats, 50 Republicans, and in the Senate, if there's a tie, the vice president breaks the tie. Okay, so Kamala Harris would break the tiebreaker. So that's the razor thin majority in the Senate. All right, current laws, just to make sure you're caught up and that you've been following some of them. The Secure Act, we talked about at our last annual client meeting. I'm not going to go too in depth on that. If you weren't there at that one, I've got it on video. I'll give you the main point that you need to follow. It's really impacted IRAs. But that was December 17th of 2019. All right. The CARES Act was passed in response to the COVID pandemic. That was March 27th of 2020. And then what they did at the end of the year, if you followed any of those things, they snuck in a 1.7 or 1.9 trillion dollar bill on December 27th for the COVID Tax Relief Act. All right. And then there's the Consolidated Appropriations Act of December 28th, 27th that you have to be aware of. And so we're going to get in to the bullet points that you need to know. I'm not going to go into detail on them, just the major items. The major thing that you need to understand about the Secure Act, there's 2 main things. One is RMD, I apologize for the acronym, required minimum distributions. So if you're someone who has an IRA and the old law said, look, you can put money in this IRA, but you got to start taking it out at some point because we haven't been able to tax this money. The old law was when you're 70 and a half, that nice even year, then you have to start taking it out, your money out of your IRA, or you're going to have a significant penalty, about a 50% penalty on what you didn't take out. So it's serious. But the Secure Acts said now you don't have to start taking your required minimum distribution until you're 72. Okay, so they changed the rule on that. Now, the big thing with the Secure Act deals with stretch inherited IRAs, basically eliminated stretch IRAs for inherited IRAs. So giving you terminology. So I'll just use a husband, let's say a husband and wife example, for example, and they have IRA. So let's say Bill and Mary sample, I'll knock off Bill, right? And Bill has spouse as the owner of the IRA. A spouse can roll over another spouse's IRA and they're not going to be impacted by the Secure Act, okay? They can roll it over and they can take the distributions over their life expectancy. But let's say when the surviving spouse passes away, they leave the IRA to their daughter, okay? What happens there when it's a non-spouse beneficiary, that's an inherited IRA, okay? And this is where Secure Act says all bets are off when it comes to the next generation and the kids or anybody else that's not a spouse. We're going to require, the old law was they could spread those distributions over their life expectancy, all right? So we had some clients give IRAs to grandkids, and these were unbelievable wealth transfer tools that would just compound just the amount of tax deferral. Can't do that anymore. It's 10 years, okay? 10 years from now, they said no more. You can go up to 10 years and then it's got to be paid out. Now, it doesn't have to be paid out every year. By the year 10, it's got to be all out of there, all right? So that's what the Secure Act did. It deals with inherited IRAs to non-spouse beneficiaries, and it reduces the stretch to a 10-year period. Okay. CARES Act. So what you need to know about the CARES Act, that was passed, remember, March. And so one thing I just told you about was required minimum distributions. The CARES Act gave you a pass last year. So if you didn't have to take your required minimum distribution last year if you didn't want to. Okay, so you could take a pass on it. Don't have the pass this year on that. At least they haven't ruled on that yet. So you never know what they'll say. I haven't seen it yet, but they haven't given us the pass yet on that one. But what the CARES Act did do, okay, that you need to be aware of, is for those people impacted by Corona, there's another type of distribution you could take from your qualified plan, meaning IRAs, 401ks, TSPs. You could take what they call a CRD, a coronavirus related distribution, and it's penalty free for premature distributions. And again, without getting into too much detail, if you take a distribution from your qualified plan before you turn 59 and a half, the IRS hits you with a 10% penalty because that's, hey, you took it too early. It's for retirement. And then you have to pay ordinary income on it. They lifted the penalty restrictions. Hey, we get it. People, if they need to access the retirement plans, you can take them penalty free. And here's the kicker: you don't have, you can put the money back in. Okay, as long as you put the money back in within 3 years, no harm, no foul. Okay, it's as if. But if you did not put the money back within 3 years, you got to pay tax on that money. And so basically, typically when you take money out of your retirement plan, you have to pay the tax in the next tax year filing deadline. They let you spread it over 3 years. Okay, so it's a really flexible rule if you fall within it. Okay, and so it's something to understand. And so what you need to know about that law ended December 31st of last year, but they've extended it with another legislation that'll go. So it's still in play. That point is still in play for this year. And so this is the next act, that Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021, although it was passed in December 21st of 2020. Longest bill ever passed by Congress, 5,593 pages. They were busy at that time. And so the CARE, it applies the CARES Act retirement plan withdrawal relief provisions. Now it's made permanent to qualified disasters. So, the COVID pandemic is a disaster, and pretty much I think all states are now covered by the COVID pandemic, as it's declared a national disaster area. But once that lifts, okay, then these provisions won't apply. But it will apply to other disasters if you have been affected by a hurricane, flooding, anything that's been deemed as a disaster by the FEMA. There's a website on FEMA website that'll say, and you can just look up your jurisdiction and they'll let you know. So what it basically means is these relaxed retirement plan distributions are not just with the COVID pandemic, it's permanent, but you have to be in a disaster area at this point. So let me show you kind of where that is in your handouts. So in your handouts, this is bonus handout 2. I went in back order, I went backwards with it, but at least you know where you'll have it. All right. So this is what I just told you. This is what, and I got this one from the National Law Review. So these are, this was on January 11th of this year. The nerd in me is coming out. But let me show you. Yeah, that's the provision with regard to the CARES Act. It says if a participant in a tax qualified retirement plan has a pre-existing right to make a withdrawal, such as a withdrawal under the plan, you can get this ability to take $100,000 out, basically, no penalty, and then spread the tax payments over 3 years or put the money back within 3 years. I'll let all the financial advisors play with how you do the strategies on it, but I'm just telling you that's the law on it right now. The other handout I wanted to show you was dealing with well, let me go back to the PowerPoint and talk about the next big thing before I get into that. All right, so for those of you who were impacted and did the Paycheck Protection Program, the loans that were part of the PPP loans to help small businesses last year, round 2 is currently in play right now. So those are, you can get loans. Let me make sure I got the dates for the loans. Okay, so most borrowers, so basically just a quick review, if you're a business owner, and the point of it was they didn't want people to get laid off from this. And so they would provide a loan of 2.5 times average monthly payroll, and up to a $2 million loan, right? If you're in the food industry, restaurant owners, they give you 3.5 times the monthly average, and up to a $2 million ceiling. So it's open now. So if this is impacting you and you still have the revenues, I'll show you if you qualify. It's open from January 13th till March 31st is when you need to apply for these loans of this year. Who may qualify? A borrower is generally eligible for a second draw of the PPP loan if the borrower previously received a first draw and will or has used the full amount only for authorized uses, mainly payroll, rent, things that were outlined specifically in the act. You have no more than 300 employees, and you can demonstrate that at least a 25%, this is the key one, a 25% reduction in gross receipts between comparable quarters in 2019 and 2020. So if your 2020 fourth quarter was lower than your 2019 fourth quarter by more than 25%, that qualifies. Third quarter, second quarter, you can do any of the quarters, you can do the whole year. The point of it is that 25% number, okay? So going back to the handout one, I just highlighted the deductive. Oh, the other important thing, and so I'm going to go with the lower part first, where it says deductibility of the PPP fund expenses. A lot of people were worried, okay, that number one, if the government, when the government forgives the loans, that it would be considered income to the business, that forgiveness of the loan. That is no longer the deal. They clarify that in legislation. The business is not going to be get hit by increased income by that loan forgiveness. And then also it clarifies, so that was number one part of it. And it also clarifies that the deductions are allowed for otherwise deductible expenses paid with the proceeds of the PPP loan. So you can deduct the interest on that as well with regard to it. The other item in that bill is as follows. Yes. So this was passed at the end of the year, that coronavirus relief bill. So let's get away from the business owner side of things. What that bill did was at the end of the year, that was signed into law by Trump. That was a $600, you can get a $600 check from the IRS if you qualify. And so it's that rebate money, okay? And if you're married, it's up to $1,200, but there's phase outs, okay? So if the credit phases out at $75,000 of modified adjusted gross income for single people, and then $150 for married filers, okay? So if you're within those ranges, then there's going to be another $600 coming. What the new plan is, and I'll get into it, with Biden's proposal, they want to add another $1,400 to that number. So there could be two checks. Well, there's going to be two checks coming if you qualify. The $600 check is already supposedly in process on that end. Okay, so let's go through that COVID Tax Relief Act and the Biden stimulus package. So the main thing with the COVID Tax Relief Act of 2020 was, at the end was, there's a whole bunch of unemployment benefits and other things, but for you all, it's the $600 stimulus checks if you qualify for that. That was a $1.4 trillion bill. Sorry, they snuck that one in. And then it also extended benefits to people who don't normally qualify for unemployment, relaxing rules on that. And then an extra payment was authorized for that. So the CARES Act allowed the first round of payments, if you remember, of the $1,200. That was a second round. And guess what? The stimulus package on Biden's side is going to give a third round to send eligible Americans another stimulus check. And this package is estimated to be at $1.9 trillion dollars. So the numbers, the zeros are astounding, right? And so that's another $1,400 of stimulus checks that are coming out for qualified. So if you don't get phased out, so once you're about 100, I think they're talking about maybe raising that phase out up to 200,000, but nothing's been they're still negotiating all that right now. Unemployment benefits are also part of the package. Not going to get into all that. Child tax care credits, but those phase out. Okay, they phase out, broader phase out levels, but they do phase out. College financial aid, first response, first family first coronavirus response act. That's okay. And so read these at your leisure. I'm not going to go through all. I just wanted you to see that these are what's on the table right now under the Biden plan. And then also there was a moratorium on evictions if you couldn't pay your rent until January 31st under the CARES Act. They're gonna extend that because they're worried about the wave of eviction. So they want to extend that through September of this year. That is the okay, that's the first part of it. And now let me go through Biden's proposal more on the individual income tax rates. All right, so individual income tax rates, the proposal is, if you remember, the Tax Cuts Job Act reduced the top tax bracket from 39.6 to 37%. Guess what? Want to move it back up to 39.6%. And then the other item is, if you remember, there's a 3.8 net tax on net investment income. So the tax rate could potentially be for you 43.4% on the individual tax rate. And then the individual capital gains rate. So currently the capital gains rate is 50. It depends on which tax bracket you're in. Okay, it could be 0%, it could be 15%, or it could be 20%. And if you're at the 20% capital gains bracket, then you're going to also pay the 3.8% net investment income tax. So typically you're paying 23.8 federal tax on capital gains if you're at the highest bracket. Could be 15% if you're not in the highest bracket. Well, once you get to $1 million, this proposal says we're not going to cap it anymore at 20%. We're going to go up to 39.6% for those of you who are making more than $1 million. And so we're not sure if they want to add 3.8% on top of that. And so that would be a new capital gains rate for high income earners at that point. Repeal of the $10,000 cap on state and local tax deduction. This is helpful for people who are, who have high real estate property taxes and want to deduct them on your income tax returns, right? And you're capped at $10,000 for the state taxes that you're paying. Well, they want to repeal that again, phase out. It's like that seems like the whole, part of it is, yes, you get this, but there's a phase out. So if you make more than 400,000, the 28, so basically you're gonna lose. I'm not gonna get into all the math, but you start losing that benefit once you start making more than 400,000 a year. Death as a realization event. I don't know how they're gonna get this one passed. So this is one where if I haven't been clear before, if you're new to a program, one of the biggest tax benefits in the tax laws is what's called a step up in basis, and step up in basis when you die. Okay, so unfortunately you have to die for this one. But so let's say you bought GameStop, right? No, just joking. Let's say you bought a stock for $10, right? And if you were to sell it when it was $20, you would pay a capital gains tax at whatever rate that you are, 0, 10, 15, 0, 15, 20%, whichever bracket that you're at, right? But when you die, one of the benefits of that, I guess, is that if your heirs, let's say you kept the stock at $0, but instead of selling it, you bought it for 10, but instead of selling it at 20, you died with it, your heirs could sell it for $20 and have no capital gains tax. It's as if they bought it for the date of death fair market value. Now, I want to make sure you're clear, that's only for non-retirement assets. IRAs, 401ks, Roths do not get any step up in basis. These are all for the non-qualified money. So if you get my terminology, non-qualified money is non-retirement accounts, qualified money is retirement accounts. But they want to make it as a realization event. Like, instead of you dying, you get to step up in basis. They're saying it's like you sold it. and if you have assets more than $1 million, then that 39.6%. I still don't know how they're going to pass. All the commentators I'm talking to, like, there's a really more of a logistical issue, is how you're going to find all the cost bases for the people that bought stock years ago. We're supposed to find out, that information. I don't know how we would be able to do that. So that is big. Limitation on itemized deductions. Again, there's phase outs. Okay. So again, we'll see the fine print, but just be aware that itemized deductions will get phased out as well. So if you recall, if you're a business owner, and what happened as part of the Tax Cuts Jobs Act, C corporations got a benefit of the tax rate for C corporations was 28% before. It was reduced to 21%. That was a really big deal. And what this pass-through deduction, this 199A deduction, basically in effect gives the same type of tax benefit that C corporations enjoyed from that reduction in tax rate for people who are not C corporations, S corporations, partnerships, sole proprietors, pass-throughs. But of course, there's limitations on that. Attorneys don't get that benefit, darn it. Accountants don't get that benefit. Engineers, for some reason, and architects get it. I guess because they're building stuff rather than us just talk about the laws. But the idea is that I think that one's on the chopping blocks as well. That's not going to be there for much longer, we don't believe. Payroll tax, so it's just, again, I'm not going to get into the weeds on that. And then the corporate tax rate, I told you, want to bring it back up to 28%. Okay. These are, for if you have assets worldwide, I'm not going to get into that. Offshore tax penalty. Like-kind exchanges. I don't know if they can get this one passed. Okay. And so there's a rule in the law called the 1031 like-kind exchange. Okay. And if you invest in real estate and rental property, you're probably familiar with it. But basically what you can do with a 1031 like-kind exchange is if you have a piece of rental property, and let's say you bought it for 100,000 and it's worth 200,000 now, and you sell it, okay, typically there would be a capital gain on what you sold it for. But if you roll it over into another property, there's certain guidelines. You got to roll it over within 180 days, or you got to identify certain things. But basically, it was a way to defer the tax. Okay, and so you could roll it into another rental property and invest, and then there's no tax due. Sell that, roll it into another one. And we had a lot of clients that would keep doing that. And what they would do is they would leave their real estate to their beneficiaries at death. Okay. And remember what I told you about that step up in basis at death? So that they just deferred taxes all through the life on these rental properties. And at death, leave the assets to a beneficiary with a stepped up basis. All those embedded gains are wiped out. Well, they're looking at that one pretty closely. And that would be a big deal because that's a big, a lot of people take advantage of that one. So we'll keep you posted on how that works. And then on the estate and gift side, I have a slide on this. So and I'll go through that slide rather than go through there. So those are the main highlighted items. There's more to it. We will give you updates throughout the year as we get some clarity. We're definitely on it. But let me show you how that impacted the estate tax and what you need to know about the estate tax. So if you remember the estate tax, I have an IRS supermarket story. That's that coupon. If you recall that, if you don't, I have it on my website. You can listen to it again. But basically, the IRS wants to tax you, on your income throughout your lifetime. And then when you pass away, if you have more than a certain amount of assets, then there's an excise tax that would be paid on just the estate. Okay. And currently, and I'm just going to talk about federal laws now. On the federal law side, the coupon is as high as it's ever been. You can die with up to $11.7 million this year, this year only. No, and there's no federal estate tax. All right. Anything over that under the current law is subject to a 40% tax. And that's per individual that you have. And so if you're a married couple, we can shelter 23.4 million, and that covers a lot of people, most people, right? And so this is what you need to know with regard to that. That law was passed not by the supermajority of 60, which would make it able to make it permanent. This was done by reconciliation because they did not have the votes when they passed it, which means that law has to sunset. So that coupon was doubled under the Tax Cuts Jobs Act. It was at 5 when it doubled, and that's set to sunset January 1, 2026 automatically. And it's going to go back down to $5 million coupon. It's indexed for inflation. It may land around 5.5 million, but the idea is it's going to get cut in half. Okay. That happens automatically on January 1, 2026, unless Congress acts sooner. Okay. And that's what they want to do. What we're hearing is do not want to wait till 2026. It could be as early as next year. We don't think they can make it retroactive as to January 1 of this year. They could technically do it. We don't think they can get it. They can get their act together in time with regard to that. Okay, so that's an issue for anybody who is, where, if you're single and 11.7 million isn't relevant to you, but if 5 million is relevant to you, then you need to maybe look at it. Or if you're a married couple, if 10 million, and I wouldn't wait till you're right on the edge of 10 million, we would need to talk if you're even close. But that's the idea with regard to it. And that's why we do the asset review report, so we can see, hey, we need to look at that. Now, there is talk about, hey, the $5 million number is too high. We want to bring it down to 3 million or 3.5 million. So that may happen. We'll keep track of that and let you know. But those are the main provisions. And so people who this does impact, what you need to know is there's an anti-clawback provision, so that if we get this done, if this is relevant to you and we get advanced planning done where you can lock in your coupon. So if it's 11.7 million this year and you want to gift away that and lock it in, and if they move it down to 5, there are anti-clawback provisions authorized. So you would be grandfathered in if you did that. Okay. Portability, not going to get into that tonight, but basically it does allow you to make sure that we maximize both, if you're married, both spouses' coupons. So the proposal on Biden's side was 3.5 million. We don't know that would take a lot to get there. We think 5 million is a definite, is very strong likelihood. 3.5 million maybe. Okay, and we'll let you know. And then the 40% tax rate would go up to 45% tax rate. This would be something interesting too, where he would make, there would be a $1 million lifetime gift exemption. Again, I'm not going to get into the weeds of that until it passes. Then I'll teach you all that stuff if you don't know it already. So basically, that's the federal estate tax laws. That's what's going on. That's what you need to know. On the state estate tax, these are the states that impose a state estate tax, and those are the levels: 5.6 million, 5.1 million. So you see where that goes. And again, if federal legislation impacts these, we'll let you know with regard to that. Okay. Digital assets. So the one thing I want you to make sure is, part of the renewals, we're working with DCS, Directive Communication Systems. And so this is dealing with your digital assets. So think about your asset review report. Those are all, those are your bank accounts, investment accounts, real estate, business interests, life insurance. But think about all of your, all the online accounts you have, right? And I've got at least 100. What happens to all of your online accounts? Who's tracking that? Does your email get shut down or does it get transferred? Do you have a website or domain that needs to be protected and transferred? What about your photos? What about your Amazon account? Do you want your family to be cut off from that, or do you want it transferred over to them? So this is a way for us to be able to track that. We don't want your usernames and passwords, and we don't want that liability. But the only point of that is this service is a way to inventory your digital assets. So we're going to come out with a program rolling all of that out with regard to it. But it's pretty straightforward, and it's one where when you go to your accounts, you're just going to click on a button and keep adding them. If you want to do them all wholesale and do them in one shot, there's a way you can do it with a spreadsheet. I'm not going to go into those details. When we're ready to roll it out, we think in February, March, then you'll have it, and that'll be our project going forward. to have. And basically, we just want to know, it's a digital executor program where it says, okay, for this email account, do you want it shut down or do you want it transferred? Shut down or transferred, right? So we just need to want to make sure that we know what to do with your accounts on the online side. All right, with that being said, I'm going to open it up to Mike Wall. He is from DocuBank, and I am going to um, um, bring him in here to talk about. I'm gonna allow you unmute yourself, Mike, and see if I can get him kind of on the program, and I'll give him access to my my computer as well. So, Mike, are you there?
I am here, yes.
All right. So, are you gonna request access for the remote like you did last time? That was really cool.
Let's see. Okay, yep, just requested it.
Perfect. So there you go, Mike. I'm going to let Mike talk about
Okay.
DocuBank. And again, if you recall, do you need me to put up the DocuBank presentation on the screen, or do you have that on your
Yeah,
side?
I guess if you have the slides, it can't hurt all. If you can
I'll bring it
share
up.
my screen, I guess we could do it that way.
No, I'll bring it up. Um,
Okay.
so,
And then at some point, I'm going to need you to switch over to a web browser.
okay. I know Michelle gave this to me, the DocuBank. There it is. Okay. You see how many revisions I go through with these outlines? I think about it. Okay, so and did you say you want to get my web browser, or just tell me what you need me to do?
Yeah, like in a couple of minutes, yeah.
Okay, go for it, Mike.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks, Bobby. And so is it, okay, it is letting me move it. Perfect.
Do you want me
All
to
right, so
make
one
it?
of the benefits of the,
I'll mute myself.
no, I think this is fine.
Okay.
So one of the benefits of the InSight Law Maintenance Program is your DocuBank membership. And so Bobby had invited me to come on today to just give a quick review of how the service works and then talk about some of the new features that you might want to take advantage of. And so that's basically what we're going to do today is a quick review of how the card works. And then I'll show you how you can log into our website and add some additional medical information that you might want to store with us. So here is a copy of what the card looks like. So you should all have one of these cards with you at all times. So you should have it in your wallet or purse. And so with that card on the front of it, it shows your emergency contact phone number and it shows allergies and medical conditions. But what the card also does is we have a copy of some of the documents you've created with Bobby's law firm. And so the card allows you to access those documents whenever you need them. So if you have to go to the hospital or if you're visiting the doctor and they're going to ask you for your advance directives, you can use this card to get those documents 24 hours a day. And so in addition to that, we also have things like your emergency contact phone numbers, your primary care physician's information, and then some additional medical information. And I'm going to show you how you can set that up with us. And so it's actually very important that you carry this card with you at all times and have it available because it's very important that you have access to those medical documents when you need them. You've spent a lot of time working with Bobby and his staff and thinking about the kinds of health wishes that you want, and you've thought about who you want to make those decisions for you. So none of that planning really does any good if you're in the hospital and your documents are at home in a binder and nobody can get them when the crisis happens. So when you go to the hospital, they're going to ask you for these documents, and this is just a very convenient way for you to make sure that you have them right at your fingertips right when you need them. And so on your card itself, there's two different ways that it can be used to access these documents. The first is there's an 800 number. So either you can call the 800 number or you can give the card to the hospital staff and they can call that 800 number. They're going to be asked for a member number and PIN number. Both of those are printed right on the front of your card. And so they'll just enter that into the phone, they'll enter in their fax number, and then it's going to instantly fax over all the documents that we have on file for you. Another way they can get the documents from us is by going to our website. And so they go to our website, they put in that same member number and PIN, and then they can download everything and print it out as a PDF. So important to know that even if you're unconscious and you're unable to speak for yourself, either your family or the hospital staff can still use your card and get those documents and that important emergency information that we have for you. So everything that's needed is right there on the card itself. And so this is important because obviously you've created these documents and you want to make sure they're there for you. But there's actually been a lot of research about advanced directives, and there's been surveys of doctors, and the doctors feel as if they're able to provide better levels of care when these documents are accessible. They've surveyed people that have had to actually done research about people that have actually had to have their advanced directives implemented. And they found that when these documents are available, people are more likely to get the kinds of treatments they want, and they're more likely to not get the treatments they don't want. So it's incredibly helpful to make sure that you are actually getting the kinds of things you want. And also, if there is a true emergency, if you don't have them with you in the hospital, that means that if your family is coming to visit you, they're going to have to run to your house. They're going to look through your office or your safe deposit box, try and find your binder. And so it just saves an extra step so they can go right there with you and be there by your side. So Bobby, if you could switch over to the website.
I will do that. And I think we got a couple questions we can maybe can talk about that, but we'll go.
Yeah, if let me just, maybe I'll answer them during the presentation. So
Okay.
so we'll just do that and then have some time at the end.
All right. So go ahead. I'll let you have
So
that.
I'm going to click right here. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the home screen here just so everyone can see where you'd start from. So if you were a hospital and you go to our website, you would click on this big button here that says Get Vital Documents. So that's where like a hospital would go to download your directives. We also might have some additional documents for you. I know Bobby's pretty thorough in his planning, so some of you might have created things like a hypothetical scenario document where you go through like a lot of different things, like if this happens, I want this kind of treatment or not. Some of them might have, I know some of you have things like a letter to my healthcare agent. So if you've prepared those, then we also would have those stored with your DocuBank account, and we would send those over to the hospital if necessary. So now I'm going to show you how you can log in to the website as a member. And so if you click on the Member Services tab here, or you can go through that link on Bobby's website, and then you'll enter, you'll click on the member number login. All right, and so it's going to ask for your member number and PIN. Oops, it's a little delayed with the Zoom call. So it'll ask for your member number, PIN, and a password. So remember, this is not where a hospital would go. This is where you're personally going to log in. So you can do some things that the hospital wouldn't be able to do. So that's why you need a password.
And the member number is on the card, and the PIN number is on the card.
Right. So the member number and PIN are both on the card. And then your password, if you've never logged in before, the password default is actually your 5-digit zip code. But then once you log in, you change that to something else. So I'm going to log in here. And so there's a couple of things here that you can do on the website that I want to point out. The first is this Update Info tab. So you can click on
I'll get rid
here
of these right here. Hold on.
if you would like to. Okay, sure.
There you go.
So if you needed to like update any of the info that's on your card, like let's say your emergency contact has changed or you have a new medical condition or allergy, then you can log into this section and then you can scroll down and edit any of this information here. And if you change anything that's on your card, then we're going to send you a new card that has that updated info. So you should get that in about 2 to 3 weeks. While you've logged in here, you can also click this box that says optional alert. So if you check this box, and it's actually going to set up your account so that if your card is used, it's going to notify your emergency contacts by email and let them know, Jane Smith's card was used. It was used at, St. Jude's Hospital, and here's the phone number. So those 3 people you have listed as your contacts can be notified when your card is used. So if you want that to happen, you just log in, you click that box, and make sure you fill in the email addresses for your emergency contacts. So another thing I want to point out is that you can, if you click on the print review, you can then go to print card. And so that's going to pull up a big PDF, a big image of your card. You hit print card, it's going to download it as a PDF. So that way you could actually print out like some extra copies of your card. So if you wanted to give it to your children or your significant other, that way, let's say you're in the hospital and you forget your wallet, or they just don't, they don't bring it because it's an emergency. Perhaps your spouse has a copy of your card, so that way that they can get your documents. Or when your kids show up to the hospital, then they'll have the card as well. So it's definitely an extra little safety net to make sure that even if your card's not there, they can still bring your card and get your documents. If you click on the medication list tab here, this is where you can add and edit a medication list. So again, this is just adding some additional medical information. It gets sent over to the hospital with your advanced directives. And that way, this is important for two reasons. That means that if you're in the hospital for an emergency, it's very important for the doctors to know what medications you're on, particularly something like a blood thinner, because that could impact the kind of treatments that they want to give you. And they want to make sure that also, if they're prescribing a new medication, it's not going to have some sort of counteraction with something you're already taking. And then the second reason is that if you have to be admitted to the hospital and you're in there for a while, they want to make sure you're continuing to take whatever medications you need to take on a daily basis. So if you can see here our sample clients taking these 2 medications daily. If you wanted to change one of these, you could just click on this box here and it's going to pop up here. So I could, internet's a little slow on the Zoom call, but I could change like the dosage or how often I'm taking it and then save it. Or if I had a new medication, I could just click on that add medication button. And then I would type in the details for my new medication here, what the medication is, the dosage, the frequency, and then a note perhaps, what the medication's for, or if you have to take it with food or something like that, any amount of details you want to add. So then you could save that and it would show up on your list down here. So it's pretty easy to just go in and make changes whenever necessary. And then if you hit the preview medication list, it would just pop up your medication list as a PDF. So then the final thing I want to show you is a newer feature called My Medical Snapshot. And this is pretty similar to the medication list. It's just some additional medical information that you can store with your DocuBank account to make available to your doctors. So you can store a list of your doctors. And so if you're working with some specialists, you can put their information here. And again, it all works the same way where you just click the Add Doctor or the Add Medical Condition, and it would pop up the box, and you just type in the information, you hit Save. And so it's very easy to go in there and remove people or add people as your medical situation changes. We also have a new one that we just added to this for vaccination history. So you can put in a list of your vaccination. So if you're getting the COVID vaccine, you can put that in, as well as which manufacturer you're getting. There's a couple different ones out there from different manufacturers that have, some of them require multiple dosages. So you might want to note how many dosages you've had. And then further down the line, it would be good to remember which ones you've had in case there are, as they're coming out with some new strains of it, there may be some follow-up dosages down the lane. So it's really important to remember which one that you started with. So you can note that, as well as any other vaccinations that you have here. You can also add information about your allergies. If you've had any prior surgeries or procedures, you can add that. And then if you had some important family history, so if you have certain illnesses that run in your family, you can add that. And so this is all just to give your doctors the most information that you can about them, about yourself rather, so that they're fully prepared to give you the best treatment possible if you're hospitalized. And so if you click this preview button, it depends on the browser setting. So it just download the snapshot as a PDF. So this is what it's going to look like when the doctor gets it from our service. And so this would just go right in front of your advanced directives. If you download them as a PDF, or if they're getting that fax, the hospital is going to get this information either way. All right, so I know we had some questions. I don't know, is it
I'll,
possible for me to see that, or do you want to just
yeah,
read?
I'll read them to you, Mike. And thank you. One thing
Okay,
I wanted to
perfect.
add is, at least with my dad, when he was on a couple of different medications, to keep track of them and the dosages, I really would have liked this, because people, it can get overwhelming. So, and I like the medical snapshot background. So that's great. Okay, so the first question is, should I be concerned that my DocuBank card says that it is expired in 2017?
There's a good chance that your membership is still active, and maybe we mailed you another card and you just didn't get it, or maybe you just didn't swap that out. So if
Could
your
they,
account is still active, even if the card says is expired, right? So they could try and log in now, and that would tell them whether or not it's active or not. But
okay,
Bob, you just want to email me that person's name afterwards, and I can double check and also make sure that the account is still active.
absolutely. And then the next question is, um, if the password is your zip code, does that mean it is the current zip code, or if you have moved, is it the original code zip code from when we started with Bobby? And I'm suspecting it's the original one, but
Right, yeah, it would be the zip code of whenever you initially got your DocuBank card.
and again, if you don't have the card, or you're having issues logging in, you can always email us. Mike is great about getting back to us with regard to that. So let me just make sure that I got that down. Okay. And then another question I've got. I don't
So I'm
remember seeing a
actually going to
document.
swap back.
Okay. What
Oops.
are you going to do?
I was actually going to swap back to the, can you go back to the PowerPoint?
Yes, let me go back to the PowerPoint and let you go. Go for it.
So yeah, I just want to leave this slide up there as well, because we have a toll-free number for you as members of DocuBank. So if you have any questions about, like, you need help logging in, or if you want to make any updates to your information, you don't feel like going online, you can just call this toll-free number here that goes to our customer